Hello and welcome to Sobirov's Wednesday live show. And I'm your host, Rahmat Sobirov, managing lawyer of the firm. I'm pleased to see you all from wherever you're joining us from. And today we will be talking about business immigration from Mexico to Canada. So welcome all. Please let us know where you're joining us from and what would you like to hear from us in terms of topics in our future live sessions. For those who are joining me for the first time, I do these live presentations and live shows plus Q&A every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Toronto time. And I would welcome your questions related to business immigration because this is what we specialize in at Sobirov's law firm. Welcome to the show and let's start with the topic. Excuse me, I have some effect of the weather today. So business immigration from Mexico to Canada, it is one of the member signatories to the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreements. Mexico is one of the largest producers of migrants to Canada. However, today our topic only discusses the business immigration aspect, not general immigration, okay? So focus on business immigration is our main target, and I would welcome your questions related to this topic, okay? Now, how it works, I have a presentation today. A more detailed, sometimes a bit technical, so let me know if it gets too technical, but bear with me. These are important subjects that I want to highlight for you on a high level, but if we go too deep, let me know. I appreciate your feedback. All right, before we delve into the topic, just brief introduction. Sobirov's law firm is a business immigration law firm, is a boutique firm in Toronto, and we specialize only in business immigration. So business immigration is our business. We've been ranked one of the leading firms in this category by the Legal 500 in 2023. We are immigrant driven. We were immigrants before. We immigrated to Canada and we are now proud Canadians. So we know the stages, the emotional stage of immigration journey. We're based in Toronto, as I said, and we are multilingual. We speak many languages in our firm, and we hope we speak your language too. We've been doing this business for over 10 years and gathered lots of insights and experience in this area. More information you can find on our website. Today's topic, as I mentioned, is an overview of business immigration regime. What applies to between Mexico and Canada. I will disregard the United States today because it is not the subject of my topic, but one day I will do again the immigration from the US to Canada, but today is our friends from Mexico would probably find this presentation useful. I will cover 5 main topics, 5 main categories of those who can come to Canada under business immigration. It is business visitors, professionals, intra-company transferees, traders, and investors, okay? So we will focus on these 5 categories. As I said, we produce a lot of content on our website at sobirovs.com. You should send us your feedback if you want to discuss, if you want us to cover certain topic, okay? And a new web page will be coming specifically dedicated to business immigration from Mexico to Canada. And it will be very helpful for those who are interested in this topic. All right. As I said, today's presentation is focused only on business immigration. On the side, as a side note, Mexicans can travel to Canada visa-free at the moment for traveling and maybe some visits on a business, okay? But that's not the subject of my topic. My topic will be more about work permits. These are longer term status, but still temporary, but longer term. We will focus only on LMIA exempt categories where you don't have to get an LMIA to get a work permit as a citizen of Mexico. And of course, intra-company transferee is the main focus, because that's where the movement, where the action is. And of course, whatever I discuss on the work permit category, it covers the family members of the main applicant, work permit holder. All right, first category, the Canada-US-Mexico agreement, which is formally known as NAFTA agreement, has a category called business visitor, okay? The business visitor is a person, of course, of Mexican citizenship, who is engaged in trade in goods, the provision of services, or conduct of investment activities. So this is a person who can visit but not work. Like work requires work permit, but this is a very, I would call it business tourist in a way, right? He's a business, but for the purpose of, he's a visitor to Canada for the purpose of business. Basic requirements, I think you will see these a bit repetitive on the requirement sections, but I will give you the main definition and then the requirements. So only for short-term visits, unless certain circumstances require that business person to stay longer, which is very rare, because you come to Canada as a business visitor to attend a fair or exhibition or trade show or something. So this is what the category implies. You gotta be citizen of Mexico, a passport holder, because the permanent residence holder of Mexico are not eligible. You gotta be citizen. So many people ask me this question. I'm a PR in Australia or in Mexico or in the US. Do I apply? Can I benefit from this? No, this is only for the citizens of Mexico. And there are certain business activities described under what you can do as a business visitor. I will come to that in the next slide. And your activities should be international in nature and scope. You don't intend to enter the Canadian labor market. Basically, you don't intend to work in Canada under this category. The primary source of your payment, the salary and remuneration, is outside of Canada. So, which is probably the mother corporation who's sending you to for a trade show as a business visitor is paying all your salaries and so on. The principal place of business is also outside of Canada. That must be demonstrated, and of course you have to comply with all the immigration rules. This is very entry-level status, I would say, under the 5 categories that we will describe today. So these are the activities that business visitors can do without work permit, without even working. So research and design, gross manufacture and production, marketing, sales, distribution, after-sales service, and general service. So you are not really entering the Canadian labor force. You're here on a temporary basis, and these are the activities that you can do as a business visitor. The next bigger, it's a category that I have to mention, because you may say, oh, this is more business immigration, but why you're talking about professionals? I'm talking about the professionals because if you establish as a Mexican citizen, if you establish a business in Canada, you may benefit from this list of professions to bring your Mexican workers to your Canadian business. That's why I will briefly mention it. I don't have to go into detail here, because it's a very straightforward system. There's a list of 60 occupations. This is a mechanism by which selected professionals can enter Canada to provide their services. And the requirements are straightforward. Main thing is qualification here, because qualification to work in that profession needs to be demonstrated. And there should be a pre-arranged employment with Canadian employer. As I said, if you open a Canadian entity and you want to hire all these professions, it is easier and very straightforward for the citizens of Mexico. It's a long list, but overall it's very straightforward. This is the flexibility that Mexican citizens have under the Canada-US-Mexico agreement. Next category is more I will delve into, because that's the chunk, the main activities happen under this category. Okay, intra-company transferees. Intra-company transferees, as the name suggests, involves two entities. One in Mexico, in this scenario, because we are discussing Mexico, and one in Canada. The requirements for the applicant is very important, because a Mexican citizen who wants to benefit from intra-company transfer has to be either employed in an executive or managerial capacity, or the capacity that involves specialized knowledge. I will come to that, but keep in mind that not all workers from your Mexican entity can transfer to the Canadian entity. Of course, enterprises in Mexico and Canada have a relationship of certain kind. It's not that they are independent of each other. They have some relationship. You have to prove that. And there must be, for those who are being transferred under ICT, they must have worked in similar position in Mexico for at least 1 year in the last 3 years. So these are three highlights: the nature of the work, the relationship between the entities, and the employment history. Now let's dive into the definition of what does executive capacity mean. So it refers to a position in which the employee primarily directs the management of the organization, or major component of the organization, establishes the goal and policies, exercises discretion in terms of decision making, receives only general supervision or direction from higher executives, but makes his own independent decision. An executive typically does not get involved in duties necessary to produce a product or offer a service. He's a higher level, like a CEO, CFO, CMO, CTO, and such positions could fall under executive capacity. Next is you can transfer those who have managerial capacity. And this is the definition of managerial. He supervises and controls. He has an authority, he or she has an authority to hire and fire people, exercises discretion over day-to-day, but you should be careful. A first-line supervisor is usually not considered to be acting in a managerial capacity unless the employees supervised are professionals, okay? So this is a bit of a legal, technical thing you have to determine. The client-facing supervisor, first line, unless he supervises professionals, is not considered managerial capacity. So many in this scenario, in this area, many of my clients ask, what if I interact with customers but I supervise my employees? You shouldn't be basically performing daily tasks, okay? You gotta be in the managerial role. The professionals under your control have to be dealing on a day-to-day production or offering the service. You gotta be higher level. So it's not a typical employee who faces the client every day, okay? And the third category, maybe I wouldn't call it the lowest, but unique. If you have a specialized knowledge of the business in Mexico, such as specialized that it would require to demonstrate that higher degree of knowledge or advanced expertise in certain areas, those categories can also be transferred under ICT. Proprietary knowledge alone, saying that, oh, I know this unusual coding mechanism or some very specific niche area, doesn't really guarantee that you fall under specialized knowledge, okay? So the whole analysis needs to be made, and you need to work with your lawyer to identify whether that person is a really specialized knowledge holder or not. So in a nutshell, we have specialized knowledge, then managerial, then executive people who can benefit from intra-company transfer category. Okay. Another major question that I'm being asked is, what's the length under ICT? What's the length of work permits that we will obtain? How long we can stay with that work permit? It also depends on under which category you're coming. For example, individuals authorized to enter Canada to open an office, like a kickstart, the initial team that comes to Canada to start, ignite the business in Canada, will get maximum of 1 year, okay? Maximum of 1 year, but in general, under ICT, the Mexican citizens who are benefiting from ICT will probably get 3 years of work permit, but then again, you go into deeper analysis, who is coming to do what in Canada, and those who are coming to just to open a new office will probably get 1 year, which is extendable, but initially 1 year. Extensions can be granted for a duration of up to 2 years if the person continues to comply with the requirements for ICT. So the guy came, let's say a group of initial employees came to open a startup office, the first office of your Canadian entity. Then they get 1 year work permit. They can be extended for another 2 years, but totally 3 years. There's no justification for them to stay longer in Canada, right? But overall, that extension, that possibility to extend will not go beyond 7 years. Overall, the total up to 7 years. The total period of stay for a person employed in a position requires specialized knowledge. That's the third category that I mentioned earlier, may not exceed 5 years. So in short, this is a long answer, but short answer is executives and managerial capacity will get up to 7 years with certain extensions, but those who are specialized knowledge holders get up to 5 years of work permit in Canada. And I mentioned earlier, the family members, dependents, and children under 22 may accompany the ICT intra-company transfer to Canada. That's also given. Next category. Okay, I hope you are not bored. If you have questions until now, start typing. I'll come to your questions. I have another 10 minutes of presentation, and please don't hesitate to send me your questions. Another very interesting category under Canada-US-Mexico agreement are traders. Usually they get a work permit for 1 year, and the requirements are very, I would say, substantial. Here's the word substantial. So, of course, Mexican citizenship, and the employing enterprise has Mexican nationality. So, in this case, the law says the Canadian entity who has been established and who will employ the traders should be of Mexican nationality. The nationality of an entity is determined by who owns the majority shares and controlling shares, okay? And the activities, this is more important, activities should involve substantial trade, substantial meaning 50% of your trade in goods or services between Mexico and Canada. So there should be a substantial relationship in terms of trade between your Mexican, between two countries in your activities. So you should be, it's not just doing nothing, or it should be really substantial between Canada, import-export, let's say, of goods or services between Canada and Mexico. Of course, we always have to keep in mind the position should not be a simple position, an ordinary position. It's a supervisory or executive, or involves certain essential skills. So traders are not normal, typical, ordinary workers that you can transfer, you can hire in Canada. Compliance, of course, is always the issue. Now, let's go into more detail about who is the supervisor under this category, the traders category. Is a manager primarily responsible for directing, controlling, and guiding subordinate employees, and does not routinely engage in hands-on activities. Again, very similar to the supervisory role in the previous category, ICT. An executive is in primary position in the organization with significant policy authority. So the executive that you want to hire as on the trader category has more like a policy making role. He doesn't get involved into day-to-day. And the third category, the essential skills or services or are special qualifications that are vital for the nature of the business, for the effectiveness of the firm's Canadian operations. So every person who may want to benefit from the traders category has to fall under one of these definitions. Yeah, this is investor category, the last one that I want to mention today. And I think this is the most interesting for high net worth individuals and people who want to invest into a Canadian business and move to Canada with their families. This is the investor category and mostly used by our clients, in addition to ICT, of course, but this is the second most popular program. And the investor work permit, again, 1 year work permit will be given. Here, I want to highlight the keyword of substantial investment, which is a bit confusing. You may ask, what is substantial investment? How much do I have to do? So let's skip this requirements. It's very straightforward. Again, the analysis of executive, supervisory, and essential skills. But what is substantial investment in this? Under the law, there's no minimum dollar figure, but it should be substantial. Again, substantiality is normally determined by using what is called a proportionality test, in which the amount invested is weighed against one of the following factors: the total amount of the total value of the particular enterprise, or the amount normally considered necessary and required for a viable enterprise. So I will give you an example because this is very confusing, I know. So let's go to these examples. How much is enough? How much is substantial? It should be according to these two examples. For example, if you open a consulting firm, it might be found that a total of $50,000 investment is necessary to become fully operational, a consulting business. In order to qualify under an investor category in that kind of business, the applicant would have to invest a high percentage of $50,000, which is, I would call it, more than 50%, more than $25,000. But this is an example of a consulting firm, and it should not be accepted as, oh, I should invest $25,000 and then I'm good. It's just an example by IRCC, okay? Another example of more substantial, a bigger enterprise. For example, for a total investment of $1 million, the investor might reasonably have to invest at least $500,000 or $600,000, whereas for a 10 million manufacturing plant, if you want to establish a manufacturing plant, 2-3 million may be sufficient. So proportionality test is very important. The nature of the business is very important. And then you may argue and say, to do that business in Canada requires the X amount of dollars. From that amount of dollar, as a Mexican investor, I'm investing the biggest portion of it, let's say 60% or 55%. That's, you can argue, is a significant investment. As I said, substantiality is there's no dollar figure. It's a very liquid argument. You need to make it, and you need to prove that either the amount is already invested or irrevocably committed for investment. There are certain confusions when they say, oh, do I have to show the money in my bank account? Yes, that's a plus. But more importantly, the money that you show should be already destined to be invested, at least destined, if not already invested. Okay? If you have already invested and you bought equipment or certain products already to run the business in Canada, that could be also calculated as into your substantial investment. Okay, already invested or irrevocably committed for investment. That's something to be proven. All right, How much is enough? Now, the whole philosophy behind the investor status, the fifth category that we are discussing today, is the objective of this status is to promote productive investment in Canada. Therefore, an applicant, a Mexican applicant, is not entitled to this status if the investment, even in millions of dollars, will return only enough income to provide a living for the applicant and his family in Canada. So many of my clients, they say, okay, I will invest this much, and I will generate this profit, which will cover my living expenses in Canada. Will that be enough? No, it should be beyond your personal expenses. The objective, as I said, is to promote productive investment in Canadian economy. It should be beyond your own necessities. It should create jobs. It should create more benefit for Canada. Then you may benefit from the investor status mentioned under Canada, US, Mexico agreement. I hope it wasn't too much of legalese, but these are important topics. So we discussed today five categories, as I mentioned here. Here we go. Yeah, business visitors, professionals, intra-company transferees, and traders and investors. These are all under Canada, US, Mexico agreement. Don't get me wrong, other programs such as startup visa or PNPs are still open for the citizens of Mexico. I'm just focusing on the most flexible programs. Just you can only benefit if you are a citizen of Mexico, okay? All other programs, express entry, whatnot, are still open for Mexican professionals or citizens. That's why I focus on CUSMA, the Canada-US-Mexico agreement, because it gives the ultimate freedom, ultimate flexibility and easiness for Mexican citizens, okay? Now, I want to highlight one thing before I delve into your questions. Thank you very much. Sobirov's law firm is coming to India. If you're interested to meet us, subscribe at this link. I will leave the link under this video. Come see us in India, and we are trying to gather the interest. If there is a strong interest, we will organize a meeting, one place to meet you all. But if not, then we will meet on a case-by-case basis. We are staying in India for 15 days, 15 days in India, and we would like to see you all there. Subscribe and stay updated. Let us be your guide in your business immigration to Canada. Book your consultation today. If you don't find the consultation helpful, we will refund your consultation fee. There is no problem with that. And we've been doing it for a long time, and trust the most experienced, one of the most experienced teams on business immigration. All right, your questions now. Thank you very much for the questions. I will pull them right here. Hello, Tahir from Turkey. Hello to Turkey. Thank you very much for joining. Okay. Here we go. Question from Roman. Roman, nice to meet you. I think you are participating for the first time. If not, please correct me. So here's a question from him. If I need help finding a business to put in Canada, and where does your firm help in finding that business, even find the franchise? Yes, we do. We have business finding services to our clients. Yes, we help you, but you need to give us a criteria, okay? You want to say, oh, I have this background, experience in this area, but I would like to do this. So based on your search criteria, we may be able to find businesses for you. And you mentioned my goal is to immigrate completely with my family. I had seen the C11 visa route as an option. What impact do the changes in the rule have on this option? The rules have been clarified. They didn't really change. The rules were there. They have been clarified. The clarification that was done last November by Immigration Canada was about the impact of your business into the locality where your business will be operating. The very famous example that I repeat all the time about C11 now, it's not about the dollar amount that you put into your Canadian business, it's where you put that dollar amount. If you go to outside of metropolitan areas like big cities, if you go further outside, the better are your chances, and the amount of investment goes down proportionally. The effect goes up, the investment amount goes down. And that's why in the new clarification by IRCC is more about the locality, and that's why you need to have good expectations and maybe connections with economic development officers of certain localities. We do have a relationship with economic development officers and business association in different locations across Canada. If you tell us where you want to get settled and you run your business and the criteria for the businesses, we can help you find the right business. Okay, anything else? More about our website. I usually want to share that at the end of my presentation. If you haven't visited our website, please do so. The website is full of necessary and useful knowledge. There are a lot of success stories, guidelines on a country-by-country basis. You can find one of, there will be a new section here about Mexico. Business immigration, all the categories we've discussed, startup visas, all the categories we've discussed, and C11 is under startup because usually the person that wants to come under C11, he's starting a new business. That's why we put it under startup. And those Canadian employers who want to hire foreign talent, we can help them too. They have necessary pages, and you can always benefit from this. And we already have always been upfront with our fees. You can go and use the fee calculator. It's an estimate, very rough estimate. And also instant free assessment is there free of charge for you to use. We don't need your emails, we don't need your telephone number, just go and use it for your own benefit. Just make an informed decision. The philosophy of my law firm and myself is to give you necessary information so that you can make the best decision in your circumstances. And we will help you to make that best decision. We've doing this business for over 10 years, we've discovered that an educated client is the best client. Okay, that's why our website, our presentations, like this Wednesday live shows are all about educating our potential clients. You can get free information, stay subscribed, tell us if you have any feedback, if you know any topic that we did not cover on the business immigration, let us know. So it's great to see you today. Thank you very much. I guess there are no questions. I can see there are no questions. Have a great rest of the week. And for those who are celebrating Nowruz, the spring holiday, happy Nowruz. For those who are observing the holy month of Ramadan, happy Ramadan to you, and hope to see you next week. Stay safe. Goodbye.